Nigerian dwarf goats can make truly excellent family pets. They have big hearts and even bigger personalities. While they're fairly low maintenance, there are a few things that you have to know in order to take care of them. We'll cover those in this video. First, we'll go over how to choose a goat, and then we'll go over their basic medical, social, dietary, and housing needs.
Kids are called kids, females are does, and males are bucks. A wether is a castrated male. Did you hear that? So in terms of pets, it's recommended that you get at least 2 because they're very social animals. And for pets, either does or wethers are fine. It's a good idea to get them both from the same farm, and that way they're already socialized when you get them and they already know each other. The reason you don't want what's called an intact male, that's a male that's not a wether, is as they get older they're a lot like teenage human boys. They start to smell bad and behave worse. But seriously, yeah, they have some behavioral issues that make them not very good pets. Does make fine pets, but does do come into heat every 3 weeks, and they tend to be very vocal during those times. But your best pet, your best bet for a pet all the way around is a wether. Right, Duncan? For your first pets, I really recommend that you get young goats. There are a few things you really need to consider when deciding where to get your new pet goats. It's very important that you choose a reputable breeder. The baby should come with a complete health certificate, including a vaccination record. They should come already weathered for the males, and they should be disbudded, which refers to the permanent removal of the horns. Now, we have this done under the care of a veterinarian while they're under anesthesia to minimize any pain. It may sound like not a very nice thing to do, but the reason we do it is those big horns can cause injury to them or to me when they're playing. So it's really important you take those things into consideration. In addition, if you get them from a really good home, a reputable breeder, you'll know that they've already received a lot of tender loving care and good socialization with humans before they get to you.
If you plan on taking vacations, make sure that someone you trust will be able to take care of them and change their water for you.
They're weaned at 8 weeks. So the does are ready to leave the farm at 8 weeks to go to their new home. But the wethers hang around a little longer. We actually wether them at 12 weeks. We want to wait as long as we can. It just makes the procedure a little easier. And they're ready to go to their new home at 13 weeks. But it's important that you visit them at the farm and start to develop your relationship with them before they are ready to come to the new home. So before you bring a goat home, you want to make sure to check your local laws and regulations concerning the ownership of livestock. Typically, this will be your Planning and Zoning Commission. For instance, we actually had to get a special exception to have goats as we live in a fairly urban area. And if you live in a densely populated area, it's a good idea to talk it over with your neighbors in advance, because these guys can be pretty noisy sometimes. You may think that our goats are just a little bit expensive, but when you look at the price of the goat, consider everything that goes into them. All of the vet care, all the initial vaccinations, the disbudding, the weathering, not to mention the many hours of socialization and tender loving care that we put in.
Because of their small stature, Nigerian dwarf goats don't actually need as much space as you think they need. They do need a shelter in the evening for sleeping, at least 20 square feet minimum per pair of goats. And this is just to keep them safe from predators and to keep them warm at night. It doesn't have to be fancy. A barn is good, but a large doghouse will do just fine as well.
It's really important that your goats have a nice clean area to sleep in, a nice soft bedding. There are a lot of different things that will work, but we recommend coarse pine shavings. There's no hard and fast rule to how often you have to change their bedding. Typically here at Fern's Meadow we do it about once every 2 weeks. Of course that's going to vary according to the size of your space and the number of goats that you have. So the way that you can tell if it's time to clean the barn is to get yourself down on the level of the goat and actually sniff. If you can smell an ammonia or nitrogen smell, they can smell it too. It's time to clean the barn. We're kind of lucky because goat manure along with the pine shavings makes excellent compost. So in addition to having the best goats in Connecticut, we also grow some of the biggest tomatoes.
In the daytime, they need lots of space to run and play. At least 300 square feet minimum per pair of goats.
Toys are a great idea. They love anything that they can play on, climb on, or jump on, such as rocks or logs or old playscapes or slides.
Just make sure the enclosure is clear of holly, yew, and rhododendrons, as these are toxic to goats. Because of their short height, any simple fence will do. A picket fence or chain link fence that is 3 to 4 feet high will do just fine. They also get along with other animals, as long as other animals get along with them.
Our goats coexist peacefully with our chickens, our ducks, our kitty cats, but we keep them separated from the dogs. In terms of health care, goats are pretty hardy animals, but they do have certain requirements that must be met. You'll have to plan on seeing your veterinarian, I'd say a couple of times a year, just routinely, to get their vaccinations and for parasite control. And also it's important to have a veterinarian on call in the unlikely event of an emergency. Another thing that you're going to have to do is from time to time you'll have to trim their little hooves. And that's because in their natural environment they have a lot of rocks that they climb around on often, and that they keep them trimmed. But on the farm their hooves tend to grow, so you actually have to clip them. You can actually do this yourself, but before you attempt it, it's important that you let someone who knows, has some experience with it, teach you.
All goats need access to fresh hay and water all the time. Hay can vary widely in quality from feed store to feed store, so make sure you're getting the best hay possible. We find it's best to get ours from local farms. They also need minerals. The mineral requirements vary between male and female goats, so make sure to consult your vet and the labels to make sure you're getting the appropriate feed. Generally, goats don't need grain unless they're pregnant or nursing. They will do just fine on hay, minerals, and water alone. Nigerian dwarf goats are low maintenance in general. However, they do have a few basic needs that we have covered in this video. They need companionship. Can't have just one. And you are not a replacement for a goat. They need constant access to fresh water and hay. They need routine veterinary care. They need plenty of space to play and a shelter to sleep in at night. And most of all, they need lots and lots of love.